we are. There we are. The music's still playing. But there we are. It is Andrea Yanis alongside with myself, Franco Panizo here, back on the latest Miami Total Football Radio show, otherwise known as Miami Total Football Radio show. I'm still working on the name. I don't know. The rolling of the R's is so part of it. It's been such a staple of the podcast for so long. I can't get rid of it. But maybe I don't know. Maybe change it to program or programa. I don't know. It doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. Andrea, welcome back. This is your second appearance on Visual Podcast. How are you doing? You're wearing pink today. Very nice to see.
It's my third, Franco. It's my third.
Is it your third? I think it's your second.
It is. I think it is. If I remember correctly, it's my third. Yeah, and I'm wearing pink. I don't know. It's just a coincidence. I'm always wearing pink when we do the show.
So we've got the listeners and the viewers popping in already. Broward Harris, what's up, guys? I see it's going to be a spicy episode tonight. Fire emojis and laughing. Catherine Kim says hello. A very big hello to Catherine. Carlos C with
hello
the
to
wave.
Everyone.
And Castaño with a nice smiling emoji. The people are excited, man. They're excited to see you again. It's been a while. You guys have been very busy, you and Jose. Jose hasn't been on in several weeks, but we'll get it back on very soon. Very, very soon. Especially with next week, 2 games. 3 games if you count this weekend. So 3 games in like 8 days. So 9 days. But nonetheless, how are you? How's everything going?
Everything is good. I'm glad to be back again. I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to talk about Inter Miami. A lot of stuff. As you said, we've been very busy, but it's all been fun. And, Inter Miami is living a good moment. So we're here to talk about it and to discuss it and to discuss everything. We have a lot of good topics for today. And to everyone that's watching, let's send your questions, send your comments, and interact with us and tell us how we're doing. And if you like what we're saying, let's see if Franco and I begin to fight today, because today's just us two, and we always fight. So it's gonna be an interesting one. But I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to be back with you guys here.
Now we have to see our facial expressions when we go at it, in terms of our debates. Now we're going to see how we look when we're going at each other. We're going to be like, oh, really? Is that what you look like when you're disagreeing with me? No, it's, hey, listen, all part of it. Fútbol es pasión. Fútbol es pasión.
Exactly.
Tank721 says, Ajicita in the building. Keep it spicy with the 3 hot pepper emojis. Gotta love it. Everyone's taken to that nickname, Ajicita. I love it.
Yes,
I haven't found one for Simon yet.
Yeah, we need to look one. I am telling you El Chele, but you don't know what Chele means, so
I don't know what that means.
We need to find a new one for Simon.
We'll work on it. I keep saying that every week I'm going to have one, and I don't. But yes, like you said, there's a lot to talk about, because since last episode, which was last week, if I'm not mistaken, early last week, it's been a little bit more than a week since we're recording again. And this time we're recording later in the week, so this will be more of a preview pod for the weekend, but of course we will recap the most recent game against Sporting Kansas City as well. Normally we do the recap and analyzing of the last game, or the analysis of the last game first. This time we'll do it in reverse order. But before we get to all of that, I want to start with a little bit of a lighter talking point. Maybe it ends up being, more of a debate. Maybe our first one here, Akisita. And that is of a video I took at this past weekend's game against Sporting Kansas City. And I took it in pregame, which we both for different reasons, ended up at the Inter Miami team store there in the northwest corner.
Franco gave me an assist. I gave her
a Sergio Busquets free kick style assist. If you want, you can show the details. Otherwise, I'm just going to go into what I was going to share.
I wanted to buy one of the Marvel shirts for my mother who was visiting. Another reason that I have been a little bit absent, because my mother was visiting us, and my mother wanted to buy a shirt the last game that she went. We couldn't find one. They were already sold out when Jose went and bought a shirt for her. So Franco gave me an assist, because I was behaving like Franco told me, like a gringa, because I was making the line when I have a credential and I have priority to get into the store, and I was making the line, and Franco called me like, what are you doing? and he gave me an assist. He grabbed the shirt so I could buy it for my mother. So Franco with the assist of the week was not Busquets with that assist for Farias. It was Franco for Andrea for getting the shirt, one of the last shirts available that day.
I didn't even realize that the Marvel characters were on there, which all the more leads me to believe that these Messi celebrations are
Yeah, of
not are
course.
not. I mean, I never thought that they were super, genuine. I think that there's definitely some Marvel sponsorship or some type of
We're
tie
in
in
the
there.
United States of America,
Of
Franco.
course, of
Nothing
course.
is.
Listen. They got it right there. So listen, I get it. I get it. All right. So let's dive into that because that is what I'm going to share. Some footage
Mhm.
from the team store in the lead up to the game, in the pregame, right? The game hadn't started yet, but this was. I just want to show a quick clip. We'll dive into it and let's see if we'll have some fun with it or if we'll debate a little bit. Let's look at this here first. You get the idea, folks. So, I mean, if you don't know what we were looking at Messi jerseys, but Messi jerseys on the shirt, on the top, on the kit,
Mhm.
on el uniforme, la camiseta from 2020 and I guess 2021 if you want, it was for both seasons, the first 2 seasons of Inter Miami's existence. Now, Lionel Messi was not around during those 2 seasons, and he will never wear that jersey unless something odd happens from this point forward. He will never wear that white and pink jersey. But nonetheless, Inter Miami is selling those jerseys and a pretty penny as well to help make up, for the absence of the pink and black ones, which have sold out, in terms of Messi for weeks. Yeah, if not more than a month now. So they're selling the white one. They're making do with the leftovers they have, which I shared on Twitter, and that made the rounds. I think it's almost up to like 500,000 views on Twitter. So some people were in favor of it. Some people say it's marketing 101. It's sales 101. Some people are not too
I don't know if it's
happy with it.
sales one, but it's like aprovechando because if not, you wouldn't have. It's like getting people. It's like when someone puts like you see a Real Madrid or Barca shirt with the new one, and you put Ronaldinho's name or Cristiano Ronaldo's name if you're a Real Madrid fan, and you put their name when you know that they're not there already. It's just like the same because he was not here. I guess they're just taking advantage that people buy anything. Listen, I
Wait,
saw
wait, wait.
someone.
Hold on. Is it taking
I
advantage if people are willingly buying it? It's not,
It is, Franco,
they're
because
not
as you
forcing anyone to buy
say,
it.
of course, it's taking advantage of the demand because I saw someone spend like $4,000, paying $4,000 in things just because they had Inter Miami or some M or something on that store, and that's crazy to me. So
Maybe we
if
should
they are.
start selling M. Maybe we
Yeah,
should start.
exactly. We need to start selling like in our countries, like outside the stadium, you get the trucha shirts, and we
Bamba,
should
Bamba. In
start.
Peru se dice Bamba. In Peru we say Bamba
Yeah,
for
yeah,
knockoff or whatever it would be
yeah,
in English.
knockoff or something like that, and like Tank says, look, those were replica jerseys for $120 exactly. So they're taking an advantage that people are buying anything that you put Messi on it. They see Adidas, they see Inter Miami, and they buy it. It's 120 plus taxes and all of that. So they're taking advantage, and that's America for you. That's capitalism for you, and you cannot blame the team because they don't have the others available. So they need to find a way to respond to this new demand that they have with all these people coming in and going to the stadium and everything selling out every game. So they needed to find a solution, and they found it using shirts that didn't sell in the past year. So I think.
I'll say this. I don't know if taking advantage. I wouldn't agree with taking advantage. I think they're capitalizing on the demand, right, and the lack of pink and black jerseys that are available with Messi's name on it. They probably had a bunch of boxes laying around with these replica
Yeah.
white heron jerseys, and they're like, someone came up with the idea of let's put Messi's name on it, and sell those. So, because they're gonna sell, they're gonna make money on stuff that probably wasn't gonna sell anyway. And well, people will get more Messi jerseys. Now, again, he's never worn it. He will probably never wear it. But nonetheless, it's going for sale, and people are buying it. I mean,
Yeah, people are
if,
going to buy
so
anything if they bring La Palma back. Every shirt that was left out from 2020, 2021, and
you're gonna see
2022.
you're gonna see goalkeeper jerseys with Messi on the back now. So pretty soon.
Exactly, exactly. You're gonna see everything. Like I've seen everything. Like people were. It's really insane how people are going crazy. I was like really surprised because I knew that they were going to sell, but people are taking everything. Like when I mean everything, a pen like this, if you put an M, they were buying a pen like this for like $50, and I'm like, what? What? Those are dollars for pens,
Socks,
and you're
socks, underwear, pens, whatever. Lo que sea. If it's Messi and it's in
baby
Miami right
stuff,
now, everyone's
exactly.
buying it.
So it's insane. I think like I'm saying, taking advantage, because that's a literal traduction, translation
Translation.
from Spanish, because they tomando ventaja, they are tomando ventaja of the situation. So I think that's what they're doing. And they need to find a way to get people to get the people that are going to the stadium and looking for the shirts to have, because there are none from this season. They are none in existence. Like you get an XL, a 3XL, or something like that. You can get that every weekend, but not for everyone. They're not available. And like
Leo.
Leo Guerra says, all about the Benjamins. That's what I'm saying. Capitalism, America. This is the United States of America, man.
So I mean, look, it's just part of Messi mania. To me, it's just part of Messi mania. We've seen a lot of stuff, some that we're in agreement with, some that we're not. Actually, I've been wanting to talk about the response from some players on recent pods, and we haven't had a chance to do so. But like the response that opposing players have had towards Messi and the like. And I think you're a perfect person to do it with. So we don't have to dive too deep into it because we've got a lot of other things to talk about. But I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on how you perceive and you take some of the things that we've seen from opposing players, right? Like Dax McCarty posting on Twitter hours after they lose the Leagues Cup final, a picture of Messi's jersey that he traded for or swapped, and him saying, tonight wasn't a complete loss. Then seeing Brendan Vasquez ask Messi for a picture after the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, which FC Cincinnati lost to Inter Miami on penalty kicks. So there's been little bits and pieces like that. I
Yeah,
think there was a
every
New York Red
player
Bulls player as
going.
well. Andrea, sorry,
Yeah.
there was a New York Red Bulls player as well. I want to add for just complete context. There's a New York Red Bulls player as well that after Inter Miami beat the New York Red Bulls, went on Twitter or Instagram, I think it was Twitter, and posted a picture of him like shaking Messi's hand post game, and had like I forget what he exactly tweeted, but it was a very positive tweet hours after a loss, which Red Bull fans weren't too happy about. I mean, what do you make of it all? Right, like
Yeah,
you're a little
fans.
bit old school in that way, right? So
Yeah,
let's hear
fans
it.
have every right to be upset, because I would if I was a fan of a team. And this happens a lot when Messi plays at national teams. He has played Honduras, he has played
Mm-hmm.
Costa Rica, Panama, and people and players get criticized because everyone is trying to get Messi's shirt, and people get mad because usually the team that has Messi always wins. So you get defeated by a lot of goals, or you get defeated by penalties, like they did it to Nashville and to Cincinnati. And to see then that your player is more interested in getting a shirt from Messi or in getting a picture with Messi, it's really disappointing. Uh, not all of them, not all of them. Let's say that, because in Nashville's case, you saw Dax McCarthy, but other players were a little bit more composed than that. And after the game, even getting mad with Messi and arguing with Messi. And the same with Cincinnati, with the exception of Brandon Vasquez and, of course, Luciano Acosta, who's Argentine and went directly to Messi. And I also don't like that the league like takes this in and celebrates it, because it's like you would never see imagine if Real Madrid loses to Barcelona, and then you see everyone like not sad, but you see them celebrating and getting the other player's jersey and putting it on Instagram. So it's part of the growing pains, and it's part of the things that Messi has conned and showed and put it on a spot, even a bigger spot than they were before, because we know that these things happen, of course, but it's been putting it in the spot a lot. And
Well,
like
I did say that.
what
I said
happened in
that.
LA, like seriously, they're the champions, man. And the way that they behave with Messi, like, you have to be professional. You have to be
So,
professional. So
I'll say this. I'll say this, and I laugh because there's a funny comment that I'm going to share with you
it's,
in just a
oh yeah.
second, which I'm sure you're not going to love, or maybe you will. So I'll say this: like, I don't think there's anything wrong with swapping jerseys and going after a sign-out
Yeah.
swap jersey as a player. After I don't have a problem.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong.
But it's the other stuff, like hours after a loss, posting your side after losing a final, losing a cup. Well, they didn't lose.
Exactly.
Sorry, time out. They didn't lose the final. You have to make sure I'm consistent here. They lost the penalty kicks, which made them, not win the final. So, but that just, doesn't sit well with me. And I know the guys at ESPN FC talked about this when it happened, and they were pretty. I think Craig Burley was especially adamant that it was, it like bothered him a lot. And I would say, yeah, look, it's just not a good look. Look, I get it. You want to get the jersey. It's Messi. It's arguably the greatest player of all time. And to be able to play against him and have that memory in the jersey, I get that fully. But to post, like, there's something about private and there's something publicly when you have a fan base that roots for you, that pays money to go see you try to win and compete. And look, Red Bull fans, for their part, they were pretty upset with the post from the striker, the Brazilian striker whose name I'm blanking on right now, but they were pretty upset. He ended up deleting the tweet. So I know it just depends. It's all a matter of opinion. But I'm with you in the sense that there's a little bit too much. It's a little too much of here comes the Messi circus, and let's all watch Messi do what he does, and let's all be in awe of Messi. Like, if you're an opposing player and a professional sports team, your job is to beat him, not beat him.
Exactly.
Which listen, you can respect him and all the great things, but I do think I agree with you to an extent that it's a little bit much. It's a little bit much. Now this is the message I left. It's from Elmer Aglabat. He says, "Get over it, Andrea. You sound like a sour abuela. If it was Messi's name on the blank white T-shirt and sell it, it wouldn't be an issue. So why is this an issue?"
Because usually when you buy we were saying usually when a team sells an older jersey, they do it for a lower price. That is the option in every team in the world. When you get your new shirt, they keep on selling the older ones until they run out. But
Broward Hernandez says, "Normally I would have disagreed with you, but as an Ecuadorian, seeing Hernan Galindez trading shirts with Messi after he scored on us kind of rubbed me the wrong way." Look, I'm going to give you a perfect example from a personal standpoint. So it's not just like it's an MLS thing or this and that, like, which was mind-boggling to me that it could happen, and it did happen. Christian Cueva, who is Peru's number 10 for the last decade, he's the top playmaker, has scored a lot of goals, gotten a lot of assists, very talented, although he's got a lot of off-field issues. He got called up to the initial camp for this World Cup qualifying matches. He didn't make the final cut because he's not in best condition, best physical form. So he still attended the second match, which Peru played against Brazil, and he attended it from a suite at the stadium in Lima. And then after the game, I don't know how, he got into the bowels of the stadium and started taking pictures with Brazilian players and posting that on social media, which bothered a lot of people because Peru lost 1-0 to Brazil in the 90th minute. So it was a sour defeat. I agree with you. I don't think that that's the right place or time to do that. Like, yes, listen, you guys can respect each other. You guys are colleagues and peers. You're competing, whatever. But you're competitors. You're there to compete, not to be in awe of one another. But that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. But let's move on. Because there's a lot of other things to talk about. Let's talk about more newsy items. We'll start with one of the smaller items, but one of the more recent ones. Nick Marsman, who was not an Inter Miami player as of several weeks now, but was still
he was an MLS player, right?
Right. He still had a contract, and he was yet still in Inter Miami camp. He is officially on loan to San Antonio FC. Now, people in San Antonio are questioning the move because apparently they have some good goalkeepers over there. I don't know a whole lot about San Antonio FC's roster, but nonetheless, Nick Marsman is on the move. He'll possibly go and get more playing time. I don't imagine he went on loan to be the third string goalkeeper over there. But I guess this kind of ends the weird chapter that was Nick Marsman sticking around here in South Florida after his contract being bought out. What are your thoughts on it all?
Well, I guess I'm glad that Nick finally found a club where he could play. I don't know if he's gonna be the starting goalkeeper over there. I guess if they're bringing minutes, they're trying to push to go to the USL playoffs. So they're trying to make the team a little bit stronger. He's a good addition. He's a good goalkeeper. That if he's not the starter, he's going to help not only the his goalkeeper mates but also his other teammates. So I think it's a good move for him. I think staying just training with Inter Miami was not the right move. He needed to go somewhere to be competitive, to really fight for a spot, not just training and knowing that you were not going to play any games or any competitive matches. So I think it's a good move for him. If he wanted to stay here in the United States, and clearly he still has a contract with MLS, so MLS needed to find, and him needed they needed to find a way to move him and to keep him
Keep
playing
him
because
happy. Keep him happy,
yeah,
right? Keep him
exactly.
happy.
I don't think he
But
was happy with the situation. So
I'll
this is a
share
good
I'll
move.
share an anecdote. I'll share an anecdote with you, Andrea, from Tuesday's availability, which not many media members attended because Messi wasn't around, and if Messi's not there, not many people come up.
Mhm.
So Tuesday, he, CJ Dos Santos, and an Inter Miami CF2 goalkeeper was not Cole Jensen. The three of them started practice by uh, running towards where we were, and they run in a straight line, and then they go around to the far field. Nick Marsman, they all had balls at their feet too, so they were like dribbling lightly. Nick Marsman saw me, and he walked over, and he gave me a handshake, and I jokingly said something along the lines like, "Oh, you're still here," and he like kind of gave me a slight chuckle slash smirk, like I didn't read much into it besides the fact like, "Oh yeah, I'm still here, but I'm not on the team." Like that's how I perceived it, but maybe he already knew that this move was coming and he wasn't going to be around for much longer. I mean, I imagine so. I imagine this wasn't an overnight thing. These moves tend to happen over a good span of time, or a couple of weeks at least, for negotiating purposes and figuring things out. So got to exchange a few words with him there at practice, and then he just dribbled on, kept going. Um, I don't think we'll see Nick Marsman again in South Florida. I don't imagine he'll be back. Obviously, Miami bought him out, so I don't foresee him returning to the team. Obviously, team is in good hands with Drake Callender. Sure, they might need a backup, but you could probably go get a cheaper backup somewhere else who can maybe not be at Nick Marsman's level, but somewhere close enough where it's more cost effective in a league that has a salary budget. Now, going back to just the overall picture here, because this past weekend, Inter Miami was missing a lot of players due to international duty. They're back, or they've returned since they last played, which was on Tuesday night or Tuesday. There was a lot of participation for Inter Miami players in this international window. Lionel Messi scored a goal against Ecuador, free kick, another free kick. He did not play against Bolivia, which we can talk about because I guess that will kind of take us into this weekend's game against Atlanta United. Will he play? Will he not play? Will he start? Will he come off the bench? It's turf. This is a question, Catherine Kim asked earlier in the comment section. Do you think Messi will start on Saturday against Atlanta from the beginning? So, Andrea, I ask you, we'll start there. Messi returns from international duty. He did not play against Bolivia we'll talk about the reasons, but what do you think? Does Messi suit up for Inter Miami on Saturday evening against Atlanta United?
I think it depends on how he's feeling. I think whatever he said in that press conference where he expressed that he hasn't any problems on playing on turf. I think right now the team is analyzing it. The team is analyzing it to see if that is something that in this moment will help them, will help Messi, and with his. Remember, he came out on that game after scoring with Ecuador. He came out because he was feeling very tired, as Lionel Scaloni said, with some kind of molestia that wasn't specified, but I guess it's just because he was tired and he didn't want to keep. They were winning and he didn't want to keep on going. And
That's
then
what Scaloni said, right? What did Messi say
exactly,
after the game? Messi said he just felt fatigue. right?
Exactly. He said he felt fatigue. Exactly. And then he wasn't not included on the roster. He was in Bolivia, but he was not included in the roster. I think just that was a precaution because he didn't want to play in that altitude. Remember, he's coming from Miami, from living in Miami and going that high. I guess didn't suit him well. I think for Saturday, it's gonna depend. It's gonna depend on what we see him do in training tomorrow. It's gonna be interesting to see because listen, playing in turf is not the ideal situation for a player that is 36 years old who has taken a trip from LA to Argentina and from Argentina to Bolivia and then from Bolivia to Miami. So I don't see him starting in Atlanta on Saturday. I think he'll come in, but I don't see him starting. I don't know what you think.
Here we go. This is where it gets nice and spicy and good. I think he starts 100% on Saturday. It's not inside information. It's just my supposition, my sensation from the outside. Look, it had been talked about in Argentina. It had made the rounds in some parts of the media in South America that he might not play against Bolivia. Like, it was a question that was asked. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can go on YouTube and search Messi no jugará contra Bolivia and put like the timestamp for like, a week ago, and you'll see there was conversation even before the injury or just the fatigue or whatever they wanted to label it as, because it was certainly a talking point. There was already murmurs and whispers and rumors about that happening because he's 36 years old and playing at the altitude in La Paz is extremely taxing for anybody, especially a 36-year-old. Yes, Messi is un fenomeno. Messi is un extraterrestre. He's an alien. We can say whatever we want, but that altitude still impacts you. And he's 36 years old. Argentina should have no problem qualifying for the World Cup without him for a game at altitude. And look, they won that game 3-0, if my memory serves me correctly. So didn't hurt them that he wasn't on the field in a large way. So I think it was just a matter of managing his load and his minutes. And then what was said publicly, which didn't really jive with one another, was just a matter of, PR and controlling his image, right? Like, you don't want to hear, oh, well, Messi's not going to play because he's tired, right? Especially when it comes to national team level. People are paying tickets. Actually, there was, funny enough, on the transmisión, on the broadcast,
The Inter Miami
Bolivia,
shirts.
there was a family of 4, if I'm not mistaken, that had Inter Miami jerseys. They were Bamba, they were the knockoff versions, but they were rocking their Inter Miami jerseys and supporting him. And that goes back to the point we were talking about earlier about, some of the response from opposing players and teams. Even Marcelo Martins, who is, Bolivia's all-time leading goal scorer, a historic striker for the Bolivian national team. He was even like in his pregame press conference saying, like, we need the Bolivian people behind us. You can't come out here and support 2 national teams, and even if it's Messi, and that goes back to the point we were saying, but we've already talked about that. So I think it was just a matter of just resting him, staying with the group, though, of course, to be around and be part of that team and the camaraderie and all that they've established. He comes here. I believe he was already took part in something today with Inter Miami. He should be training tomorrow, and then he'll travel with the team on Friday ahead of that Saturday game at 5 p.m. So Eastern. So I think he starts.
You think he starts?
And listen, and going back to the turf thing, because I know that's still a talking point. Obviously, he said in his press conference, the only one he has had with us local media so far is that, he doesn't have a problem with turf. He played on it when he was younger, throughout his youth career. So he has no problem playing on it. Now, you can say one thing, but then playing on it is another. We'll see what his impressions are after.
He also remember they play on Wednesday again, so I think
They do play on Wednesday.
that's a factor to take into consideration. But it
They
may
play
be
Toronto
that
FC though.
Yeah, it may be also that he has to play because Atlanta United opened up the big stadium and they open it up to the capacity of the Falcons play. So it's like 70,000 people. So it's gonna be an event.
I will be there. I will be there. I am
Franco
flying to Atlanta tomorrow night. Miami Total Football will be there in the house to bring you, of course, all the pregame, in-game, post-game footage and quotes and comments, which we'll share, of course, next week on our first of 2 episodes that we'll have next week because of the busy few days. Now, Andre, speaking of this game against Atlanta United, Inter Miami is soaring. There are 12 games now, a dozen games without suffering a defeat. They won this past weekend. Again, we'll dive into that a little bit later on.
They're going to 13.
They're going for 13. They're going for a baker's dozen, if if that's the correct use of that term, which I think it is. They're going for the 13.
They will win.
Atlanta United was one of the teams that Inter Miami has already faced in the Messi era, and Inter Miami at home easily dismantled Atlanta United. It was the game where Sergio Busquets was allowed to do whatever he wanted from midfield. They didn't press him a whole lot. He got that early goal to Messi where he hit the long ball over the top. It was a very
that was for me, of the 12 games they had played since Messi arrived, that was the worst team that they played against. Atlanta United.
Charlotte. I think Charlotte was worse.
Charlotte had some opportunities in the first half, and Atlanta United was just bad all game. It was disappointing. It was horrible. They were horrible, and I expect them to lose. Listen, we were talking about the players being starstruck by Messi. I think of the teams that I have seen, Atlanta is the team that suffered from that the most, because they didn't play for anything.
But I think the game plan was what really hurt them. I think Gonzalo Pineda got it really wrong, and I think there's going to be corrections this time around. I think it's going to be a different game, especially like you said, with the stadium rocking.
Easily.
Okay.
Easily. I think Inter Miami wins easily, like Andrew Rogers is saying, 4-0 repeat, let's go. I think Inter Miami is bagging at least 3. And if Lionel Messi starts, even more.
Flamito Oficial with the Brazilian flag says hello. He's wishing us hello, maybe from Brazil, or maybe he's local, but he's clearly a Flamengo fan, so and probably Brazilian. Here comes J-Dog with Como están Miami Total Fútbol Radio. I just couldn't roll it my arm. See, I just tried and I struggled. Radio, there we go.
Radio, Franco.
It doesn't come off every single time. It doesn't come off every time, especially when I'm speaking English and I have to transition to Spanish, and like my brain has to switch over. It doesn't flow as smoothly as you guys might think all the time. Normally, yes, but not all the time. Again, I think it's going to be an interesting game. If we're talking formations, it'll be interesting to see if Tata comes out with the 5-3-2 that he's gone with, or if he goes with the 4-3-3. I think he's going to go 4-3-3. And I think one of the reasons for that is the level of Farias, right? Facundo Farias has 2 goals in 2 games compared to Robert Taylor, who, yes, was, Messi's sidekick and got a lot of praise during those initial Leagues Cups games that he was scoring goals and making a difference. He's kind of tapered off a little bit. He's kind of his form has gone down a good bit. But this is what Facundo Farias said when you asked him about playing on turf after the win against Sporting Kansas City this past weekend. So let's listen to that. We'll translate for, of course, you listeners or you viewers that don't speak Spanish.
Nunca jugué, pero no creo que sea diferente. La verdad que se hablará en la semana, pero no creo que cambie mucho en nuestra idea de juego, en lo que nos planteamos en el campo de juego, así que vamos a prepararlo y seguro que vamos a hacer de la mejor manera y con muchas ganas.
Hasta que pique una esa pelota, hasta que...
Yeah, I ask him because it's interesting to see players that come from other parts in the world where we don't play in artificial turf anywhere, almost anywhere. Just a couple of stadiums I can think about in Latin America, because listen, turf here, especially in stadiums like Atlanta, it's simply horrible. So I think that's gonna be a factor, but I don't think that's enough for Atlanta United. I don't think Atlanta, yes, they have Thiago Almada, but I don't think they have shown, especially against Inter Miami, projection. I don't think they had they concentrated too much on getting Messi and concentrated on Messi and forgot about even playing their game, forgot about Thiago Almada, forgot about everything that had made them good until that moment, and their showing was horrible. So I think the field is going to be an advantage for them, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And I think players like Farias are going to struggle with that turf. And let's remember, last time Inter Miami played on turf, they lost Corentin John. So players have to be very careful in these fields. Just yesterday, the NFL Players Association came out with a statement and using football, using soccer as they call it here, as an example, because they said it was unacceptable playing on surfaces like the one in Atlanta, the one in New England, which are stadiums that are shared by teams in the NFL and the NFL and the MLS. So I think it's going to be interesting for Messi, for Busquets, for Jordi Alba, for Farias, for even Tomás Avilés, because these players are new to this sort of thing, are new to those types of field. But I don't think that's going to be enough for Atlanta to take advantage of this game, because right now in this moment Inter Miami is even better than what they showed in Leagues Cup when they were starting to play together. Right now they not only have Messi, but they have Leonardo Campana, who's having a great moment. They have Facundo Farias, who's having a great moment, and they have different attacking options, like with, you said, Robert Taylor, but they also have Stefanelli, who we saw last game, and they're getting Joseph Martinez back, and getting Benjamin Kremaski and David Ruiz and all the players that went to international duty. So I think right now in this moment, Inter Miami, it doesn't matter if the field is synthetic. They have a clear advantage, but it's going to be difficult for them to adjust to playing in that surface.
Jaime Otoniel says, "Vamos Messi, go Messi, go." So look, I agree that I think Inter Miami wins this one, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park like it was last time. Yes, Inter Miami is a better team this time around, but I think Atlanta United is going to have learned from the many mistakes that they made that day, and they're going to make corrections and adjustments. Is it going to be enough for them to beat Inter Miami? No, I don't think so. I think Inter Miami is going to win this one. I still think Inter Miami will keep it rolling with Messi, with the team being closer to full strength. But this is where it's time to think about what type of formation they're going to go with. Do you think they go 4-3-3, or what were you going to ask?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you if because I was curious to see what you think. You said that you think that the ambience and the stadium is going to be crazy. Do you think we're going to see majority of Atlanta, or we're going to see like in LA, where supposedly they have a good fan base, but it was all turned into Messi mania when they played them?
So I'll share with you what I think. This is again not information here. This is just my supposition. I guess there's a little bit of information here. I think it's going to be close to 50-50, maybe 60-40 in Atlanta's favor, but I do think you're going to see a healthy contingent of Messi fans, and as a result, Inter Miami fans. Now, before I get into that, I will say that I do think it's going to be, a packed house. I do think, I don't think, like you said, you think it plays a part in Messi having to play. I mean, it's definitely an element there of that pressure of from corporate levels and stuff. But like Tata has said, that doesn't factor into his decision making whether someone starts or not, especially someone like Messi. But I do think it's going to be a packed house, and I do think it'll be split. Now, I have friends and I have some family that live in Atlanta who I will be seeing on this work trip. They are Atlanta United fans. They have jerseys. They go to the games, but they're Hispanic, they're Latin American, they're Peruvian, and they have an appreciation for Messi. So I have a distant cousin who's going with her fiance, and I remember from months ago, she reached out to me on Instagram asking me if I thought Messi would play. So clearly she's interested in seeing Messi play. So she's going there. I mean, we even joked. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to get rid of your Atlanta United jersey and take an Inter Miami one." And she was like, "Oh, absolutely!" So that's one element. My buddy who's going, he's going with his brother and some other friends, and I believe he's taking his wife. They've gone to Atlanta United games. They have their Atlanta United jerseys, but he's a diehard Messi fan, and he has been for years and years and years. He was rooting for him throughout the whole World Cup in our WhatsApp group that I have with him, and he's going to see Messi. So yes, I think you're going to see some of these Atlanta fans, especially if they're Latin American, flip to go for Inter Miami in this one. Which, you can have your opinion on that. We can have our opinion on that, but, we're not here to cover Atlanta United. We're here to cover Inter Miami. So I do think it'll be close to 60-40. Probably still in Atlanta United's favor, but I think there's going to be a healthy contingent of Inter Miami fans, which should make for a great spectacle and a great environment. I'm looking much forward to it. I've been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium on a few occasions already, including an MLS Cup final. It's never disappointed, but I imagine this one's going to be a bit different and something special as well. So Very much looking forward to that, as well as the magical ice cream machine that they have at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So if you guys have never heard of this, I'm going to share with you a quick anecdote. They have such great technology in this place because it was recently built, right, in the last few years, that there's an ice cream machine that you literally pull a lever and it comes out like that. It literally takes less than 2 seconds for your cup to get filled. It's like one of the most mind-blowing things I've seen. They definitely spoil their media there.
Yeah, definitely. NFL stadiums are the best for media food because MLS stadiums like Inter Miami are not so great for media food. So let's hope it gets better next year. But
the complaint in the complaint box there from Makisita. I just had to get her slide tackle.
I'm gonna get banned from the press box.
They're just not gonna feed you anymore. That's all that's gonna happen.
They're not gonna feed us. They're gonna charge for food.
Tactics, formation.
Yeah, I think.
What do you think? 4-3-3. I'm sorry, or 5-3-2.
No, I think 4-4-3. I think
4-3-3. Don't say 4-4-3. That's an extra play.
Yes, 4-3-3. I think Tata Martino liked el funcionamiento of the team against Sporting Kansas City, who was difficult rivals for them. And with the players that he's got coming in, it's going to complement that formation even better, because if you get Messi back, that it will be great to see Messi on one side, Leonardo Campana on top, and you get whoever you want to place, either Farias or you get Robert Taylor or Nicolas Stefanelli on the other side, and it's gonna be a great trident for Inter Miami up top if you get that. And in the middle, I think they are sorted out with Busquets and Dixon Arroyo, and it's gonna be interesting to see who is that other player.
It's going to be Benjamin Cremaschi. It's going to be.
You think it's Benjamin Cremaschi?
Diego Gomez
he's injured.
He suffered an injury on international duty, didn't play. So he suffered the injury against Peru in the Peru-Paraguay game in the first match day. He played 66 minutes, almost scored off of a free kick. I was watching it as a fan with my Peruvian buddies and friends and family at a bar in Hollywood, and he almost scored off a free kick, hit the crossbar. But he came out of that game in the 66th minute, apparently picked up an injury. So I doubt he plays in this one. We don't have confirmed information on that, but it sounds likely that he does not play.
You could also have, instead of Cremaschi, you could also have Stefanelli playing there in the middle. When you get Dixon Arroyo and Sergio Busquets, you get a good defensive duo there. So you could see Stefanelli keeping his place in the middle.
And the back four with the goalkeeper are pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, that back four.
It's Christoph or Aviles, and I think Aviles is going to be the starter.
Yeah, especially because the field for Sergi Christoph is going to be a lot harder than for Thomas Aviles, who is a kid, 20-year-old kid, and Christoph is old, and he played against England, and he traveled, and I don't think it suits him to play.
I think that's the most important element of it.
It doesn't suit him to play.
But the travel for him at his age, right?
Exactly.
More advanced in his state in his career than Thomas Aviles. I think the turnaround with the travel is probably tougher ask. So I think it's going to be Aviles and Kamal Miller, and of course your fullbacks will be DeAndre Yedlin on the right, Jordi Alba on the left.
It would surprise me if we see that back five again. I don't think we're going to see it, especially because it's against Atlanta, and I don't think we're going to see it against Toronto either, because Toronto is the worst team right now, and I don't think we're going to see the back five in these two next games. And I think he was happy with what he saw against Sporting Kansas City, because, yes, we know they still have problems in defense, concentrating in defense. But I think it worked, especially in attack. But
against Sporting Kansas City, it was like to me, it was like a 4-2-3-1. That's what I saw. I saw a 4-2-3-1 out there. I didn't see a 4-3-3.
Yeah, you could say that, especially because Facundo started playing, and then he changed places with Stefanelli, and you could say that too. But it's that dynamic that type of formation gives you. When you have back five, you don't get that. You don't get that. And Tata has the option, as we were talking, to bring in Messi and then to bring Farias to play with Messi and Campana, or to bring Robert Taylor, or to bring Stefanelli, and then bring in the middle another player like that. Is either Stefanelli, Cremaschi, or David Ruiz if you want to be defensive, or you have that possibility with that formation. With the back five, you don't get as much because you lose a player in midfield, so it's not the same. And I think
I
Inter
asked
Miami.
Tata. I asked Tata that last week, and obviously it was after we recorded the last pod, so I probably should have clipped that quote from him here. Although he didn't really say much, because I asked him, what the difference is for him in the 5-3-2 as compared to the 4-3-3. I even jokingly said, 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, however you want to look at it. And he kind of chuckled and had a little smile on his face as I said that. I think Inter Miami's been at its best in the Messi era when they've played the 4-3-3 and had Messi on the field, because they're attack minded. That allows him to get on the ball. When you play 5 at the back, yes, it helps you solidify things defensively, but it takes away one more player in an attacking position, which this team is meant to attack. Right now, you can say different matchups are away from home and different games.
Matchups,
they might want to play
depends.
with 5 at the back, but I think in this game, you've got
to they don't need a back 5 against Atlanta.
4-3-3.
We agree. This is a miracle.
Well, this is where now we're going to get into it here, because you started from the front to back. Normally, I'm a soccer traditionalist, purist, soccer nerd. Usually start from back to front. But we'll say you started in the front, and you have Leonardo Campana as the starter. Now, I feel like we've talked about this topic and asked this question to the listeners and viewers practically every show, especially since we've gone to video. If maybe we've missed one or two here where we haven't asked this question, but it's been a common question, and it's going to be a question yet again. Who starts up top? Is it Leo Campana, who is in form, no denying that, or is it Joseph Martinez against his former team in Atlanta? I believe there's going to be some type of presentation for him from Atlanta. Is this his first game back there? Not his first game against Atlanta United, but his first game back in the stadium in which he scored many, many goals, won a title, and became a club legend in a span of a few years. Who starts up top? Now, who do you think should start up top? But who starts up top? And before you answer that, before the listeners and the viewers that are in the comment section answer that, I want you to hear 2 quotes from this past weekend. One from Campana on his current form, and then one from Tata Martino on Campana's most recent performance. We'll hear both of them back to back. Again, we'll do our best to paraphrase if you don't speak or understand Spanish at the end, and then we'll dive into it. So let's start with Leonardo Campana.
Sí, bueno, yo creo que he venido de menos a más esta temporada. Por ahí al principio no tuvimos cambio de técnicos y me hubiera gustado tener más minutos. Ahora el Tata me está dando la confianza, confía en mí, mis compañeros también. Yo creo que, como lo dije el año pasado, necesitaba eso de ahí. El año pasado también llegué, el cuerpo técnico me dio la confianza, puedo hacer una gran temporada y eso, trabajando día a día, yo creo que todas las cosas se ponen en camino al final del día.
Quick paraphrase, Andrea, if you want to translate. What do you say there?
He said that things get in their place day by day. The change. He talked about the change in coaching and not getting that much opportunities with the coach in the past and when Tata came. But change happens day by day.
And he said he feels more confident now. He's gotten the confidence of the coach, the trust of the coach. So that has helped him in this recent good run of form. Now, let's listen to Tata Martino. Because I'm going to dive into my analysis of what Tata says here in good detail. But I want, of course, everyone to hear it, and then you guys come up with your conclusions, and then we'll dive into it, of course. This is Tata Martino on Leonardo Campana's most recent performance against Sporting Kansas City, which was a 2-goal showing.
Creo que jugó un muy buen partido, independientemente de los goles que hizo, tuvo mucha participación en el juego, se asoció bien con Facundo, y para un centro delantero llegar al gol siempre es importante. Él lo está haciendo con bastante continuidad, así que estamos contentos por él porque es un chico que trabaja muy bien.
All right, Andrea. Tata Martino there talked about how he thinks Campana had a good overall performance aside from the 2 goals, how he was part of the collective overall play, asoció. To me, this is the most important thing, I think. And I think it's what, now listening to Tata and analyzing the games and, answering the question that a lot of people have of why Tata continues to go to Joseph Martinez, even if he's not maybe the most lethal finisher of the 2. I think he puts such a priority in el juego colectivo, right? In terms of the ability to knock the ball around and keep possession and play with the ball in that way. And I think Joseph Martinez has maybe, in his eyes, done a better job of knocking the ball around and helping the team keep possession, this is my what he says. Like he makes an emphasis. This doesn't overly do it, but if you try to read between what he's saying, he says, oh, apart from the 2 goals, he was also involved in the collective play, which again is Campana's more of a pure number 9 than Joseph Martinez, right? He's more of a guy that's going to finish things off in the box. You know, he can play with his back to goal and things like that a little bit better. But does he move the ball as quickly? Does he pass the ball and release it as fast? I don't think so. And I think in Tata's system, Tata wants a striker.
I don't think that
goals,
Joseph helps collectively. He doesn't have the body. He doesn't run. He doesn't get the ball. And you get that all with Campana. And listen, I think Campana is going to start because Joseph Martinez was bench player in the 2 games with Venezuela.
He started one. He started one.
And oh yeah, he started one. Yeah, you're right. One he was a bench player.
He started against Paraguay. I have it all here. I wrote it down to get my homework ready. I think he started against Paraguay and then came off.
Yes, but I have to say that even if Joseph went to the national team, he didn't do a good job. They lost the first game and then they won the second game with a goal from Salomon Rondon, not Joseph Martinez. And Leonardo Campana, even though he was not called up for Ecuador, which was a big blow for him because just a week before I asked him, and he said he all but said in a press conference to me, and I asked him directly, nos estás confirmando que vas a la selección? And I asked him, are you confirming that you're going to the national team? And he told me, I talk to a coach every day. So he was expecting that call up. And
well, he did say he was surprised when you asked him
for him
last week about
exactly.
not being called up, which by the way, I kind of took it as like I don't know. I didn't like. I'm not
Ecuador has a good team. Listen, it's gonna be difficult for Campana and.
But I told you and Jose Armando, our other co-host, who's been missing in action for several weeks. Jose, get back. I told you I was a little surprised by his comment saying that he was surprised that he wasn't called up because it was like he was saying like he deserved to be there, which maybe he fully believes that he does, but he's been predominantly a bench player for Inter Miami in recent weeks. So, like, I don't know why he expected to be there. Yes, he has scored some goals, but he hasn't been a regular starter, right? He hasn't been the out-and-out number 9.
When you see Ecuador and you see that they are calling this 16-year-old kid, Kendry Paez, and Campana is not getting called up, I guess that must have hurt him. Like he said in that press conference that you're talking about when I asked him. And it really surprised me that after that, even though he was mad, he was surprised and I guess a little frustrated because he doesn't like to be on the bench. And if he wasn't called up, it's because he was a bench player until the last couple of games.
I think Andrea, and this is not information.
So his response was good on Saturday.
Absolutely. But I think his response to you and the question you asked him last week at practice and how he said he was surprised, I think there might have been some backlash. I don't know if Ecuadorian press took it as backlash or the fans but I think there was some backlash there because again, I could see the argument of people saying, well, why is he surprised? He's not even starting regularly for his team. But because he was asked again on Saturday after the 2-goal performance in the press conference about not being called up or about, how people think he should be called up. And he kind of skirted the question a little bit that time. He was kind of like, oh, I don't want to be a distraction. And it seemed to me like something happened between what he said to you and then a couple days later playing again.
I guess he talked with the coach because he also told us and told me that the coach hadn't called him and didn't even notify him that he was not called up. So
something
I guess
happened.
he talked
something
to
happened.
I mean, he talked to the coach.
If I was a pundit in Ecuador and I covered the Ecuador national team, I'd be like, why are you surprised you didn't get called up when you're not a starter at your team?
Yeah, and it's gonna be difficult for Campana because Ecuador right now has a good team. They have good strikers, and for Dixon Arroyo, it's gonna be even harder because in Dixon Arroyo's spot, you have a lot of good players that are playing in the Premier League and playing in Europe. So it's gonna be hard for them to get called up. But I understand that they could be frustrated because, listen, even Benjamin Kremaski is getting called up to the national team just because he's playing with Messi. And you get these players who have experience with the national team not getting called in when they are playing with Messi. You got Diego Gomez being called in. You got David Ruiz getting called in. And you got all these players getting called in. And you don't get a call up when you're supposed to be one of the main players, like Dixon Arroyo has been all these year since he came in. He has played almost every game. So it's disappointing for them. So I get it. But Campana coming out on Saturday and showing up like he did against Sporting Kansas City was a good step. And I think with that performance and that showing that he did, I think he earned that starting position against Atlanta more than Joseph, because Joseph comes from the national team. He didn't do so good. He didn't play both games. And you have an informed striker that is scoring from plays like Campana did in that goal.
Andrea, I agree with you that Campana
assisted.
is. I agree with you that Campana is the better of the two
dangerous
strikers.
than Joseph.
I agree
Like
100%.
Andrew Rogers saying Campana is much more composed and is lethal in the air.
100% agree with that. I agree with
imagine if you're playing Farias, Messi, and Joseph Martinez, like the short guys.
El promedio no está muy,
like the short guys. And you get Campana, you get a strong body, a tall body, and someone that is good
Andrea,
with his feet.
I agree with what you're saying in terms of who's the better striker, but it's not about I'm not saying who we think should start. I'm saying what we think Tata Martino does. And I think Tata Martino goes with Joseph.
Now to see. Tata Martino has to see. Like, el que tenga ojos que vea, as we say in Spanish, who has eyes, they should see, because like clearly in this moment for the team, I think Campana is better. It should be no question. It should be no question that Campana should be starting and Joseph Martinez should be on the bench. I think even Tata and his assistants have to see that.
So Andrew Rogers says Campana is much more composed and is lethal in the air. Broward Heron says, I want Campana to start, but I'm feeling like Tata will play Martinez due to bias and history with him. This is again what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that could maybe play a part, but this is what I think. I think Tata, again, because there's Messi on the field, right? Like the need for your striker to be as lethal of a goal scorer is not as much of a priority. You still want your striker to score goals, right? You still want them to score goals, but is it as much of a priority when you have Messi on the field and you know Messi can score a good load of he can score a whole bunch of goals, right? So he can score a healthy load. So do you need that striker to be as lethal? So Tata, I think, prioritizes other elements as much, or he puts value and importance into them, like being able to keep the
what
ball
element?
From the
his history with him or his friendship with Messi, or what?
I mean, look, he
because
there's times where Joseph lays it off. Right? Joseph lays it off.
Futbolistic things, they don't exist. Joseph has not shown anything.
He keeps the ball moving, though. He keeps the ball moving.
How?
He does a lot of layups. I mean, one of my criticisms is that he does that too much. Like, he doesn't ever nunca encara. He doesn't go at defenders. It's a lot of layoffs here, a lot of dink passes. It's a lot of short passes. But it keeps the ball in rotation and flowing. And if you listen to Tata Martino in press conferences, habla bastante. He talks often about la circulación de la pelota, a lot about the movement of the ball and the ability to circulate it and move it around and have different players get on the ball and keep possession that way and keep the touches going. I think he puts value into that. And I think he sees, whether we agree, listeners agree, I think he sees Joseph as better in that aspect. Again, I agree with you that Campana is the better striker.
We should be talking about then bringing back Robert Taylor in, because then the team has the ball more than they do with Farias, because Farias gets the ball and passes. He gets the ball and goes forward.
Maybe Robert Taylor starts. Maybe we'll get more answers this weekend, right? We'll see if Farias or Taylor starts, because Farias is a bit more direct, right? That is one thing
that they have done. I think Tata Martino and his assistants and all the coaching staff is they have read the games correctly. All these games that they have played. I don't count the Cruz Azul game because that was the first one, and they had a lot of problems in that game. It was the first game. It was against a difficult rival. So, but the other games, they have his coaching staff and him have read them correctly. And I think personally, my opinion, this is my opinion, if he reads this correctly, footballistically, you should see that you should start with the 4-3-3 that we are talking about, and you should start with guys like Farias, Messi, if he is able to play, and Leonardo Campana up top. And then against a team like Atlanta, you would be invincible. That, if you analyze just footballistically, that is the best starting lineup.
I agree with you. Campana tiene más recursos, right? He gives you more options to hurt the opposing team. He's better in the air, right? How many times have we seen this season a cross come in and Joseph Martinez line up to do a bicycle kick because he's not a header of the ball. So I agree with you. He gives you more in the air. He's better at defending set pieces. He can hold the ball up better, but does he move the ball as quickly as Tata Martino likes? I think that's a question that we don't have an answer to, right? Like, I don't think anyone's asked Tata Martino directly, like, what is it that, and Tata Martino's savvy enough, he's experienced. He's not going to say
he doesn't
it's this,
answer.
it's that.
I think he has said, like, Joseph is about, but he doesn't
give a direct answer.
He doesn't give a direct answer.
Kenny KH says at the moment Campana is better. I think most people agree with that. But it's not just about the goal scoring. It's about the collective play and what you want out of your striker. And I think Tata Martino wants more than, just a lethal number 9. And I think that's why we haven't seen Campana as consistently as maybe he should be playing, because Tata's valuing other things. Now, we can continue on with the topic because, there's so much to talk about in terms of the types of strikers they are.
Look what Carlos
Campana also helps defensive set pieces compared to Joseph. I think most people would start Campana. But
especially against Atlanta, that this should be an easy win for this new Inter Miami team. This matchup should be an easy win on paper. Then you should start when you have games against rivals like Atlanta. You should start the better striker, the better team, the better attacking players, because these are the games that can help, that you can win easier than, like, for example, you would have to go to Nashville again, or you will have to go to Cincinnati again. So these are the type of games to do it. So I think Tata Martino he has been doing that, and he should read into that against Atlanta. But I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I agree with what you're saying. He obviously.
So you think Joseph starts? You think Joseph starts?
No,
I'm asking who you would start. I'm asking who you would start. I'm asking who you think Tata starts.
It's very difficult to say, because if I tell you that I see Joseph starting, I will be telling you that will be not because of footballistical reasons, but because of a preference of Tata Martino.
But a coach is about preferences.
Yeah,
it's not just about who's most deserved. Like, that's a fallacy. That's not based in reality. Coaches have their preferences, and they pick on those preferences. Yeah. Whether they get it right, si aciertan or no, then that's up for us to discuss and debate.
But in conclusion, I'm going to say that I think Campana starts, because if he's reading the games like he has been doing, he should start Campana and continue what the team he's been building on these past games.
To summarize here, I'll read J-Dog's comment below. Campana should start, but if Messi plays, Joseph might start just because of his playing style. I'll say this. I think Joseph will still be the preferred option at the 9. But I think the leash for Joseph Martinez is a lot smaller now. I think Tata Martino, like, Campana is very close to convincing him to switch. And if things continue the way they are, with Joseph not performing at as high of a level as you would like, and Campana continuing to score off the bench and making the most of his opportunities, I think soon you'll see that switch. But I think right now, I still think it's going to be Joseph on Saturday. We'll see. Jaime Otonio says, buena discusión, good discussion. He's liking it.
Thanks to everyone for your comments. Let us know what you think about our craziness and our analysis and everything that we're talking about.
I got a
yellow card for Franco. I agree. Thanks, 7-1. I agree, a yellow card for Franco, because
who made Tank 7-2-1 the referee here? Who assigned him the referee? So that's going to probably get me a red card.
CONCACAF. He's a CONCACAF referee.
So he doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, let's switch gears, because we've talked about the formation. We both think Inter Miami wins, and they keep it going. So they should move a step closer to the playoffs. All right, Andrea, we still have to talk about the last game, so let's do so quickly, because we're already over an hour, and we're bringing back the Q&A session, even if it's only for a couple of questions. And I know not everybody can make it on here live, so let's try to jam-pack this in the next 10 or 15 minutes so we can wrap up the show. All right, so Inter Miami played Sporting Kansas City this past weekend at DraftKings Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They played through the international break. Inter Miami was missing a bunch of players due to those call-ups. We've mentioned almost all the players, I think. Maybe we didn't mention Ascona.
Robert Taylor.
Yeah, we could go through them all really quickly if you want, but we don't have to. All right, fine, let's do it. Drake Calder was called up, Benjamin Cremaschi to the United States, Sergei Kristov to Ukraine, Edison Escola to the Dominican Republic, David Ruiz to Honduras, Robert Taylor to Finland, Lionel Messi to Argentina, Diego Gomez to Paraguay, and the ninth one was
Joseph Martinez to Venezuela.
Joseph Martinez to Venezuela. There we go. It's been hard. It's always been like one person that I just keep forgetting, and it just rotates. Depends on who in the order I just do it in. But Joseph Martinez for Venezuela was the ninth one. All right. So those 9 players were missing. Inter Miami still fielded a pretty good starting lineup, and they won this one 3-2. Now they fell behind early. Drake Callender, who was allowed to stay with Inter Miami despite being called up, they allowed him to stay for the game. U.S. Women's National Team did. He commits a very big blunder, and Sporting Kansas City takes the lead. Inter Miami responds through Leonardo Campana off of a penalty kick that he earned. Bit of a soft penalty kick, but there was contact made, and he converted on the spot kick. I mean, it was foolish from Tim Melia.
As a goalkeeper, you cannot do that.
It was a boneheaded play from Tim Melia.
Yeah.
So 1-1, and then right before halftime, DeAndre Yedlin pulls off a moment of magic on the ball, crosses it into Campana at the back post, and this is where Campana can do things that I think Joseph Martinez can't. Rises up over the center back and heads it to the back of the net. 2-1, they go into the break at halftime with the lead. I don't think Inter Miami played all that well in that first half. You sat by me. I don't know what your impressions were, but Inter Miami took a lead into the break. In the second half, they get a goal in the first 10 or 15 minutes off of a very astute heads-up play from Inter Miami. From a very astute heads-up play that showed all his experience with Sergio Busquets putting the ball down on the ground very quickly as Sporting Kansas City players were arguing a foul that was called against them. He finds Facundo Farias wide open. Facundo Farias races in on goal, and he finishes it to make it 3-1. It looked like Inter Miami was going to cruise to the finish line, but they don't get the fourth. Robbie Robinson, he had a good moment on the ball, but instead of passing it to Campana for the easy push-in, the easy tap-in goal that would have given Campana his hat trick, Robbie Robinson very selfishly decides to take a shot on frame, and Tim Melia makes the save. It's 3-1. That comes back to haunt Inter Miami a little bit because Alan Pulido scores a goal, makes it 3-2, and it made for a very nervy finish. Nonetheless, Inter Miami, they sufrieron, but they held on, and they won.
Kamal Miller was the MVP on that last 10 minutes because the one that he takes out, I even screamed.
With his bum, right? With his bum. I think it was with his butt.
Exactly.
He made a great deflection there. Quick, just overall analysis on this one. Listen, I think the biggest takeaway is that they won, and that they won despite not having Messi and several other players. This was
was important.
I don't want to say depleted, but they weren't at full strength.
Yeah,
and yet they still came out and won at home against Sporting Kansas City. It's not the best team, but nonetheless.
No, but it's Sporting Kansas City is a team that I've been bashing them all year because I've been saying they were the worst team and blah blah blah. But listen, since Alan Pulido is back, he has scored 13 goals with the goal that he scored against Inter Miami. So they are now with him, they are a dangerous team, and they proved that against Miami. But it was important for Inter Miami's players. I asked Campana if it was hard for them because all the attention now is Messi. So in this game, everyone was saying Inter Miami is going to go back to what they were. They don't have the quality without Messi. And it was important for them to get this win. Even with that, with socando, as we say in Honduras, al final, to that end of the match, that Sporting Kansas City could have tied the match. And even with that, the team got the 3 points, and it's a booster, not just for the playoffs, but for those players that were there who were considered like second tier because the others were on international duty, and that's why they got their start. But if you see, a lot of the players were the regular ones. But if you are also going to talk about something not positive, like it's me, I have to say something negative all the time. So I'm
glad you're embracing. I'm glad you're embracing your villain.
It's the Latina in me, please. It is what it is. But I didn't like the defense. I didn't like, especially Jordi Alba. I think he had one of his worst matches in this in his time here. He seemed tired. I didn't like him.
No way.
Obviously,
no
Busquets
way. No
always
way.
has that touch.
Andrea. Ahora sí discutimos. We're arguing now. And Daniel Marcetti says in Castellano. He wants us to speak in Spanish. Bilingual podcast, my friend, bilingue. So we got to go back and forth. But I'm disagreeing with you here. Jordi Alba, I thought, had a solid game. The one who had a bad game, besides straight Calendar's blunder early on, was DeAndre Yedlin. He had his moment of magic on the ball, and that helped atone a little bit, but he was poor in this one from the start. Poor touches, lack of concentration. He did not have a very good game. And he's involved in both of the first two goals, Andrea. If you go back and look at them, he's involved in the two goals that Inter Miami gives up. The first one, he is not in line with the rest of the defense, right? No está alineado con el resto de la defensa, and he leaves the striker on. And if it wasn't for that, of course, yeah, Strict Calendar, gets most of the responsibility there for not dealing well with the shot from distance. But if DeAndre Yedlin would have been in line with his defense, that guy's offside, and they don't score. Then the second goal, he reacts too late, and the ball comes down in between him and Aviles. Jordi Alba is not involved in either of those goals, Andrea. So, I don't know how you can say he had a bad game.
It's not a bad game, but I didn't like him personally. Yeah, I didn't see him give what he has been given in the last games. He has always been productive. A lot of centros and a lot of, how do you say centros in English? I forgot. Crosses. Yeah, crosses. Sorry. You didn't see him do that a lot. And Busquets, as always, he manages that midfield. So I think Busquets had a good game, obviously. And I didn't like the defense. I think that's something that Inter Miami needs to keep working on, especially because you get Kamal Miller and you get Aviles. And in that Pulido goal, for me, you talk about Yenli, but for me, you could see the inexperience that Aviles has in that goal.
Both of them have.
And Pulido, and you could see, exactly. And you could see why Alan Pulido got his new DP contract, renewed, because in that against Aviles and against Yedlin, he showed he is a lethal striker. So you could see that Aviles, as we say in Spanish, is still verde. He is very green.
That's how you say it. Yeah, that's how you say it in English.
A literal translation.
When I was starting my career, somebody told me you're as green as marijuana. Someone told me that. So yeah.
So you could see that. So that's, for me, if I have to say something negative about the team, was that the four defenders, Jordi Alba, Kamal Miller, and Tomás Aviles, and DeAndre Yedlin, were not as solid. But then you see Yedlin gave them assist, and then Kamal Miller saved that third goal, the tying goal that Sporting Kansas City could have scored if he didn't get his butt in there.
So this was the starting lineup really quickly. It was a 4-2-3-1. Drake Calendar in goal, DeAndre Yedlin, Thomas Aviles, Kamal Miller, Jordi Alba, the back four. The first line of the midfield, Dixon Arroyo with Sergio Busquets. Second line of the midfield, Nicolas Stefanelli, Facundo Farias, and Robbie Robinson. Up top, Leonardo Campana. Look, overall, my biggest takeaway from this game is el resultado se obtuvo, right? They accomplished the goal of getting the win and getting the 3 points. El rendimiento, to me, the performance level, not great. I don't think they had a great game. Now, yes, they were not at full strength. Messi was not there. So, can't ask for them to be at that same level, but I still don't think from the run of play, they played particularly well. The first goal comes off of a penalty kick, yes, that they earned, but it was a play that Campana had his back to goal and he gets knocked over.
It wasn't a goalkeeper error, because it was not, Campana was no danger to him for him to come
with his back to goal. Yeah. So yeah. That goal, yes, you give mérito and you give merit to the pass from Dixon Arroyo and the run from Campana, but it was a silly penalty kick, more of an error from Sporting Kansas City and Timilia than for Inter Miami, mérito for Inter Miami. The second goal, moment of magic from DeAndre Yedlin. It's right before halftime. Besides that, I don't think Inter Miami created much of anything else to test Timilia. And then in the second half, after they got the third goal, and they made it 3-1, and Sporting Kansas City really had to push number forward and really try to start risking things. Spaces started opening up, and I think that's when Robbie Robinson started to have his best moments, including that aforementioned very impressive play that turned into a very frustrating play because he didn't pass the ball to wide open Campana. That's when Inter Miami should have put away a fourth and ended the game, but they didn't. Sporting Kansas City got back into it. Overall, they get a passing grade. They won. They got the 3 points. They took care of business. But did they play particularly well? Again, look, the third goal comes off of a heads-up play. Again, it wasn't from collectively, on a breaking down or unbalancing Sporting Kansas City. It was just a heads-up play from Sergio Busquets. I know Kansas City.
Una viveza.
Viveza, exacto. Kansas City wasn't too happy with it. The players were protesting at Peter Vermes after the game, said that there's no way that free kick should be allowed because the players are talking to the referees.
It is allowed. That is why you say you don't stop to play unless the referee gets his pito, his thing, his whistle. Yeah, sorry, his whistle, because you have to keep playing. It doesn't matter what you think or what you think you saw. You have to keep playing, and that's a difference between top players like Busquets and Sporting Kansas City players who are accustomed to argue with the referees, these pro referees that MLS has, who let's talk about the referee in this match. It was El Fat, who is not very good in my opinion. So you could see that
he's
difference.
He's a World Cup referee, Andrea. He's a World Cup referee, all right? So, I don't know if he's that bad. I don't know if he's that bad. Daniel Marcetti, soy argentino, creo que si hoy Messi no entrenó, no jugará, igualmente veré el partido. Daniel, yo creo que Messi jugará, yo creo que sí va a arrancar. Andrea dice que va a participar como suplente, pero yo digo, no es información, yo creo que Messi arranca el sábado. Pero bueno, back to the Kansas City game.
And also I think Kansas looked a little bit better because Messi was not there, so they didn't have that pressure to be on top of him all the time. So I think they played better, and that helped them to complicate things for Inter Miami.
I think Kansas City wasn't great either. I think neither team was great, but Inter Miami was just more clinical, and they had their better moments, right? Like DeAndre Yedlin's moment of magic, Busquets' moment of viveza. I mean, that helped make the difference. So we'll leave it there for that game. Inter Miami got a passing grade, and they got the 3 points that moved them closer to the playoff line. They are now 6 points back, Andrea. 6 points back. Look, there's the tabla. Oh, we got to take this comment off so you can see where Inter Miami is, because right now you can't see it. All right, there it is. Inter Miami has 28 points. DC United in 9th with 34. The 7th place team, which doesn't play in the play-in game, is on 40. So that's 12 points for Inter Miami. Maybe you could see it as a task too big, but I'm going to ask you before we go to the Q&A session. Does Inter Miami make the playoffs, Andrea? Does Inter Miami do it? They've got, 6 games left in the season. Only 6 points separate them from the red line in the Eastern Conference. I've asked Steve Brenner. I've asked Simon Borg. I've asked Simon Evans. Simon, don't hurt me. I've asked Simon Evans. I ask you now. I've said no for the last 2 shows, or the last 2 times I've asked this question. I'm starting to think yes. They make it.
I would think yes, but the problem is, Franco, that Messi is leaving for international duty again.
But they don't play again during international duty. They don't play again in October on international break.
Yes, they play that Charlotte game, in the reprogrammed game on the international duty dates. So that's gonna be a thing. If they need the points for that match, that is going to be right after. So they're gonna be playing a lot of matches on Saturday and then Wednesday. So that makes me doubt it. But you never know. This team, Simon has believed it from the start that they could win the treble. So you also have to say that they have the final on the 27th. So that's something that they should concentrate on instead of an MLS game, because it's a little bit more plausible for them to win a trophy there than to win the whole of MLS, right? So for me, for that reasons, it's still a no. But I can see them getting very close to the playoffs.
So that game that you talked about, Charlotte, it's played right after the international break ends. It's literally played the day after the second round of games in terms of the window. So yes, a lot of players that play Tuesday are not going to make it in time. But technically, it's not played in the window. It's played out of the window.
Technically, yeah, but they put it on a Wednesday, so I understand that Inter Miami doesn't have time because they have the cup final and they have to all be done before that weekend. And that's why they are playing that game. When they reprogrammed this game, we talked about it, that it was going to come back and haunt the team if they continue to win, and this could be a problem, and this could be that is why I think that they still not make it, because they have the final, and for the final they have to concentrate, and they have this game that they're gonna be missing a lot of players, and they have to win every game. It's possible with Messi. Like thanks is saying we will win the treble. Simon has been the only one that has been saying that said it from the start. We didn't believe.
¿Qué se
But
dice?
listen,
¿Triplete en español?
sí,
¿Ganarían el triplete?
el triplete. So it's gonna be hard. Listen, the positive thing is that the rivals that Inter Miami have. You wanna say what are the 6 matches that are left for Inter Miami?
So I'd have to pull up the schedule here. You just put me on the spot. So I mean,
okay, I have it. So they have Atlanta,
Toronto,
Orlando City, the New York, Chicago, Cincinnati, and 2 games against Charlotte. And in the middle of that, they have the US Open Cup Finals. So they are playing a lot of games from Wednesday and to Wednesday and Saturday and so on. So the schedule
I have to correct
could be...
myself. I said they had 6 games left, but I thought it said 28, but they have 26. That means they have 8 games left.
Exactly, yes.
So I mean, I think I'm going to go back on what I said now. I'm going back and forth here, but I mean, look, they proved me wrong. I have to, say what I think. I think they make it. I think they make it now. They've been so good now, and I think they make it. They still have to keep it up. That's the tricky part. They still have to keep it up, but I think they won a game without Messi.
For me, these games with Atlanta and Toronto are a must-win. They cannot lose points in these matches, because then you have Cincinnati, and that is gonna be hard. Cincinnati are gonna play that game.
Nobody's beaten Inter Miami yet, though, Andrea. Nobody's beaten
no one is beating them. Has beaten them, but for them, 1 point in that matchup is not gonna do anything.
That's true.
So it's gonna be difficult. And then you get a game against Chicago, who is also fighting you for that last playing spot.
Chicago, no chance.
No chance. I know.
Thanks 721 says Ajicita is a pessimistic Pamela. Double yellow card. Pa fuera. Early shower for Andrea.
Franco is now changing his tune. He said no earlier. Now he's changing his tune. Let's see. I think it's still too early. Let's see. There's 2 games of this weekend, and the one on Wednesday. I think they're gonna give us a good view, and also the results, because listen, Inter Miami have been winning. They have been doing their job, but also DC United and Chicago have been fumbling the ball like crazy, like they were Ryan Tannehill. So Inter Miami has benefited from that. So it's all been doing good for them.
Let's wrap it up with the Q&A session, the return of the beloved Q&A session for those of you that have been viewers or listeners for a long time. We'll do it very quickly because we're already over our allotted time that we normally try to aim for. So we'll go with one question. It comes from Jason Siegel. What is the injury status of Diego Gomez and Gregory? Also, Mota came back for 1 game and hasn't played since. Did he re-aggravate his injury, or was his performance not good enough to regain his spot on the regular roster? So, I mean, we've had some updates. Gregory, we know he had a screw removed from his foot, so he had surgery there. So, they didn't use the word setback, but it sounds like he suffered a setback, and he's going to be out, from what Tata Martino said, until at least October. So, probably not going to see Gregory again this season. If we do, I can't imagine it's much more than a few minutes here or there. Jean Mota, there hasn't been any word officially from the team, which is, sometimes they want to give you injury info, sometimes they don't. In this occasion, they haven't said anything about Jean Mota's continued absence.
We haven't seen him in training since he played the last game.
He wasn't with the team. He hasn't been training. He wasn't with the team at the last home game with Messi, when they brought out the League's Cup trophy and the whole team was there to walk on the field of DraftKings Stadium. He wasn't present. He was at home. He posted on Instagram a video of him from a couch with a blanket, Inter Miami blanket on, and he was watching the game. He recently, this week, posted his legs in one of those, like, I don't know what to call them. They're like the
cámara hiperbárica. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I mean, one of those. I mean, hyperbaric chambers. I don't know how you say it. but he was in one of those like recovery machines. So seems like he had a setback. We don't have that confirmed. I'm going to ask Tata Martino tomorrow, so we should have an update officially. But it seems like he also had an injury after playing.
And with Diego Gomez, we still don't know. We are going to ask
know.
Tata Martino also tomorrow because he came back and he was examined by Paraguayan doctors, and Barros Esqueloto, who, by the way, doesn't have much time left in his tenure. We're going to see him in MLS pretty soon. I am betting on that. If you want to bet, tell me. He said that he had a muscular injury. So Inter Miami has not yet informed us what type of muscle injury, but usually those you're out like for 15 days, something like that.
So a hyperbaric chamber, I just quickly looked it up, has to do with oxygen. So I don't think Jean Mota was in there, but he was in some type of technological medicinal contraption. I don't know what it's called. I'd have to actually find out what it's called, which is my job. So I'll work on that. All right, we'll leave it there for the Q&A session. Normally we do our final thoughts on the pod, but we've gone on for a while. And I know Andrea
Hey, I'm going to do my final thought.
No, there's no
I'm going to do my final thought.
Fine.
If not, I'm going to riot.
Okay.
I'm joking.
Quickly, though. Quickly.
No, I have to say that it was a good week for Inter Miami youngsters because I'm obviously going to talk about David Ruiz playing his first game with Honduras in Rueda's new era with the team. David Ruiz came in and he played his first match, so he is already representing the national team. And then Benjamin Cremaschi played his first match with the United States, but I wanted to let people know because some people are talking that he is already cap tied. People need to understand you need to play 3 games with the new rules. You need to play 3 games. 3 games to be completely cap tied with a team.
Not if it's an official game. Not if it's an official game.
Yes, you have to play 3 games, Franco.
I don't think so.
You have to play 3 games. Yes, you have to play 3 games. 3 games with the national team to be considered cap tied for a team. So we could still see Benjamin Cremaschi.
That's different. Cremaschi played a friendly. David Ruiz played.
No, I'm talking about Benjamin Cremaschi.
I see.
He's not cap tied. Yeah,
exactly.
He's not cap tied, so he needs to play 3 games.
Sorry. My misunderstanding on what you were saying.
Like Broward Heron is saying, let me speak, man. Let me speak.
Let Andrea speak.
It was a win for Inter Miami because this is a good thing for the team because it builds for the future. You could see the team starting to create players. And then the next step is we're going to see the team starting to sell these young players to Europe, to other leagues and important leagues. And that's when the team is going to keep growing, even after Messi. So I think that's important to see these young guys get time with the national team at such young age. And let's face it, they are getting called up because they play with Messi.
All right. Tank 721 says final thought. Andrea, well, he said Akisita's completely wrong. We make the playoffs. Cool guy emoji. All right, my final thought. I wasn't going to do one, but I will do one now. Is that I might have some very exciting news to share with y'all soon. I can't say much more than that, but I'll tease it there for a little bit. I'm not usually the one to tease. I like to reveal news and break news. I don't like to keep secrets, but this one I have to keep close to the vest for now. But I might have some good news to share with y'all fairly soon. So that's all I can say for now. But it's been a pleasure once again having Andrea Llanes, aka Akisita, on the podcast. We're gonna try to make sure she comes back next week for one of the 2 episodes, if not both. I don't know if I can get both, but we'll try. We'll try for one of the 2. If you haven't already, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're watching this live or post live viewing, please give us a like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the above. Ring the little bell on YouTube. Do it all. It helps us out tremendously, and it costs you guys absolutely nothing, just a few clicks. But I'll be in Atlanta. I'll bring you guys all the coverage from there, and we will be back next week for 2 episodes. So for Andrea Llanes, I'm Franco Penizo. Thank you guys again for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.